Okay, recess is over. We're back in session. We're here today to entertain a negotiated price. Now, before anything happens, I want to let you know, I have a number on my piece of paper. If the negotiated price is within 10% of that number, I'll vote in favor of the contract. If not, I'm not going to vote in favor of it, so it's up to you whether the price you gave is announced or not, because we'll go out to bid.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, that's a position, but it may not be the position.
Well,
Do you have a?
Can I ask a
Oh,
question?
I don't have that.
I have a parliamentary question. For us to be informed of this number, we have to go into non-public. Correct?
that I do not know.
I am of the opinion that we would have.
Oh,
to
I'm
go
sorry, Mark, I missed it.
We have to go into non-public to have the number revealed to us.
Unless we put the cart before the horse and vote.
And I would ask if that's okay with the gentleman from Eastern Slope, that his number be revealed in public.
Well,
Which
if
is
we
putting
went-
it-
if we weren't gonna have a competitive bid, then it would be, but you're right, I think we have to go into non-public.
Well, he's exposing himself if he gives the number in public and then we decide not to take it.
That's right.
So I think we owe it to fair play to go into non-public, and I do believe we're within our rights under RSA 91A32:D, consideration of acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property, and the tank is a personal property, and it's part of the things to be considered.
Do we lease the tank? We don't lease the tank.
I think we do.
No.
No, not formally.
Not formally.
I think we lease it because it's tied to you recover costs, and so you're recovering cost in the price that you give us for the oil, for the depreciation of the tank. So yes, if you're not covering your tank cost, then you're losing money.
Absolutely. So indirectly, yes.
I mean, I'm reaching here, but, I want to get us into a place where we can legally
Let me-
attain your number without the public being aware of it.
Okay, let me explain where my number came from. I've spent a while contacting other counties and talking to them about their rates and their usage. So that's
I understand.
where that came from. That was competitive research. David?
Okay, well, now you've led me to have to ask some questions. What counties did you call?
I called all 10. I only got responses from 7.
Well, they all don't use,
They all use propane?
No, some of them use natural gas, and I converted that to propane use, and I eliminated those two as part of the use because 50 and 60 cents a gallon is not what I would consider, it's an outlier, and I wouldn't consider that.
So piped in natural gas is like, and comparing it to propane, it's like orange and kiwi.
Yeah, it's like,
So
that's why it's an outlier, I wouldn't even consider that.
Okay. Number 2 is off the charts.
Yeah. The other was, let's see, Grafton, Coos, Stratford uses natural gas, Merrimack, Sullivan,
They all use propane?
yeah, Belknap uses natural gas. And the first one I said, Stratford uses natural gas.
So out of the 10, how many were using propane and Colgate? Or talk to you about it?
There were 1, 2, 3, 4,
4.
6.
Okay, well, thank you for doing that.
So of those companies that you solicited, or those counties that you solicited, how many of those counties actually have a fixed price contract currently? And when did they purchase that?
All right.
Okay, of those that were purchased, Don't you love this? I did my homework.
Oh, absolutely.
One has a contract for 1 year that's starting in July. One has a contract for 1 year that is ending July 11th, and they're going out to bid. One has, that's a natural gas, I'm sorry. One has one that ends in August, and one has one that just started this month, June. And the other one's a natural gas.
So those two, the one is starting next month, and the one that starts in August are the ones that probably you should be looking at. But there are some other considerations that need to be looked at here too, to surmise the price and the cost of the product, right? So that is the asset that sits in the pocket. Okay.
Yes, sir?
I'd like to make a motion that we go into non-public under RSA 91A3, Roman 2, small d, consideration of acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property, which if disclosed in public would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community.
Was that acceptable? You were going to check.
Well, wait, there's a motion. If there's not a second, then we don't.
David?
Madam Chairman, I will second that, but I respectfully request that I could continue to ask my questions that I asked.
Oh, I thought
I
you were
wasn't
finished.
finished. No, I wasn't finished. I see a problem here in the fact that I thought that I heard you say that if the price wasn't within 10% of,
1%, I thought I said, but.
I thought you said 10.
She said 10.
I did
I'm
say-
sorry, I meant 1%, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
so-
Okay,
1%.
well then there's no need to go forward because we need a unanimous vote here if we're gonna bypass the bidding process. And you obviously, if you stay with what you said, you're not gonna, we're not gonna be able to do it because it's gonna be at least 2-to-1 vote.
Well, it depends on what the number is that you have.
Point of order.
Yes.
The reason I made the motion that's before us to go into non-public is that we can have this discussion, which is going to be helpful, and ask these questions. But at some point, we're going to have to get into the nitty-gritty of the money. So I would
Just look at the
like
numbers.
to either vote this up, non-public or not non-public, but I need to know before we go in. You know, if we're not going into non-public, I want to know that. If we're staying in public, then I want to know that before we go any further. So I would move the question that's before us.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded to go into non-public under
That one.
that one. All those in
No,
favor
you
say,
gotta do roll call.
Roll
oh,
call.
roll call, sorry, Cheryl.
Commissioner Hounsell?
Yes.
Commissioner Babson?
Has anybody seconded it yet?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
you
did.
You did.
I thought you
Oh,
said-
I said I would second it after my questions were answered.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought there was a second to it.
So did I.
There's no question, a second, and there's
Well,
more.
I will second it so that we can have the discussion.
Well, the roll call vote now is, I said yes.
Commissioner
I'll say
Babson?
yes.
And I'll
Motion
say
be
yes. So we can go into non-public, and you can give me your number in non-public, and I'll compare it to mine, and then we can argue.
You know, okay.
Are you off?
I'll make a motion that we not go out for bid on our propane needs for the next year. The reasons, and the law requires, Bob, that we have to give reasons. The price from Eastern is, the service from Eastern has been exceptional. Eastern owns the tank, which puts anybody else at a disadvantage because only Eastern can fill that tank. Eastern has also given us a very, very competitive price, and for those reasons, I recommend that we don't go out for bid.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded not to go out for bid.
For reasons stated.
For reasons stated, and to award,
No, not yet.
Not
There'll be
yet,
a second
okay.
motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now, we make a motion to award the bid, award the contract.
I will make a motion that we award the propane contract for the, from July 1, 2018 to September 2019 at a fixed price of $1.2838 a gallon, and that Easton agrees to do the, what's the technical term?
To file the appropriate paperwork for the jurisdictional account to the state.
To file the proper paperwork to the state for, to cover us as a
Jurisdictional account.
jurisdictional account, and that we agree to pay for any exceptional costs that should occur in the inspection, and Eastern agrees to pay for just the normal day-to-day parts or
Labor.
whatever.
Labor associated with filing all the forms.
Second.
And file the forms, and they will file the forms also.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to award the contract to Eastern for the rate of $1.2838 from July 1st, 2017 to September 1st, 2019.
No, from 2018 to 2000, you're a year behind.
I'm sorry,
And that's through September.
Yep.
of 2019. And to meet all the requirements of the state for a jurisdictional account. All those in favor?
Discussion?
Oh, is it discussion? Yes.
I know we stopped short because we started in non-public to talk about things that should be in public, and Commissioner Babson pointed that out. But Ken had some observations that I would like to have him share with us, that you were.
Okay. First off, we had talked about yesterday about the split delivery last week, where we got 3,000 at at $1.07, and the other remaining was at $1.12. Bob actually brought in a credit today for $278 for that, so he made that good.
Nice.
Thank you for that.
And thank you, Bob, I forgot to mention that, I'm sorry.
My concern going forward is the elephant in the room, and that is what Eastern says is that $90,000 tank sitting out there. I'd like Bob to explain a little bit about what would happen with that tank.
Should you put this contract out to bid, it puts really your competitors at an unfair advantage, because Eastern owns the tank. The tank is an asset. It's a $90,000 asset. Therefore, if your contracts are written in a 1 year and Carroll County does not own the tank, but Eastern owns the tank, the other companies cannot really bid against unless they're willing to invest in a new tank out there or purchase a tank from Eastern. So right there puts them at an uncompetitive advantage over Eastern. So there are options for Carroll County, and you can buy the tank outright at a cost negotiated. You could find another vendor that would be willing to put a tank there and bid on the load. But I think going forward, it puts Carroll County in a position at a disadvantage, not owning that asset.
One of the counties I spoke with said they have 10 tanks in series.
Okay, multiple 1,000-gallon tanks.
No, I think they were bigger than 1,000-gallon tanks,
No, probably not, but
because 10 would
But
only be
go ahead.
10,000 gallons, right?
10 at 1,000, yeah, it'd be roughly 10,000 gallons.
How big is this tank?
This is a 30,000.
Okay. Because for me to have this tank out here is, I'm very uncomfortable with that. We had an incident, that was very scary. I don't know whether burying it underground is a solution or replacing it with multiple tanks is a solution, but it's scary having a little bomb sitting out here. I mean, that's not even a little bomb, that's a pretty big bomb, actually.
So it would take all of us.
Well,
Well, it's not
But
nice.
it's not gonna, go ahead.
can I just continue with what I was saying? So we had talked about all of this today, and Bob brought to light some interesting facts, which, would you share what you told us about the big tank versus the smaller tanks, and the advantage to having a bigger tank, and no other advantage to having
Well,
a smaller tank?
your biggest advantage of having the small tank is that you get the wholesale pricing.
You mean the large tank?
The large tank, the 30,000 gallon large tank that's sitting in your pocket. You get what we call direct ship pricing. So we're going right from the supply source right to your tank. There's nothing in the middle.
Not stopping at anyone's house and filling their tank.
Exactly. So what happens
We
if you
just
remove if you remove that tank, now we have to haul that load of propane from the supply point to, say, our Tamworth location, unload it there, have a smaller truck back up, reload it, and then come to your facility and go around to all of these. That's an average of 25 cents a gallon increase in price by doing it that way. You've actually increased your exposure to something happen, an incident happen, by having multiple tanks all over your property versus that one tank that's out here. That one tank that's out here is very safe, believe me. There are redundant emergency shutdown systems in there. There are excess flows in that system. That tank is very safe. Yes, you did have an incident. The incident was that the vaporizer that you have out there that pushes the gas, because gas is stored in liquid. It's not a gas in the nature in which you burn it. So your complex is so big and so vast that you need a vaporizer to heat that product up so you can distribute it across your whole network. So the incident you had was with that vaporizer.
We had a leak in the flange on the valve.
Exactly, at the vaporizer though.
No, the supply line.
Yeah, going to the vaporizer though. Right, it was right at that point. There was a leak there. So it wasn't the tank. That's what I'm trying to get to, because it wasn't a tank. It was something coming off of that tank. And you're gonna try to multiply that by how many times if you put little tanks all around your building? That increases it multiple times that you could have that same incident. Where you have that one line here, now you're gonna ask that you're gonna put multiple lines all over your campus that are gonna be exposed to the element. And it really puts you in your situation you have here is probably the safest installation that you could have on this property. For those reasons.
Yes.
I agree. Having been raised in this industry and doing gas piping myself, I agree that this is a safe unit. And, but I also like the fact that it's your tank, because with this contract, with this price, if for some reason through your jurisdictional inspection, which I really like that part of it, and I think that needs to be noted more, that we're going to be able to ensure safety better and operations better because of that help. But if that tank for some reason wasn't adequate, it's on you to put the right one in.
Absolutely.
Whereas if it was our tank, it would be on us.
And not only if it wasn't accurate, but we have to maintain it. So every
Right.
10 years, we have to replace those relief valves that are on top of those tanks that have those stacks on. Just one of those alone, just one of them probably goes over $1,200.
I have a question though. If you talk about changing trucks being 25 cents a gallon, the number that I came up with was $1.33, which was only 5 cents more than what you had quoted us.
Okay.
So maybe these other companies are using small tanks, they're not using big tanks, so you might check that again. But the 25-cent distribution
Well,
cost.
we have done cost analysis within our company, and that's the cost. Because now we're using 2 employees, we're using two equipments, we're using 2 different softwares, we're using there's a lot that goes into it, so the cost analysis is correct. If you take it from the transport, that picked it up at the supply point and deliver it right to the end user, these are our costs. But if you're asking us now to go to an infrastructure, another infrastructure that we have to support, Tamworth office, those plants, those tanks, and those trucks, and those drivers, you've added that expense to that one load. Where you don't absorb that, you don't see that when we do a direct ship to the end user.
I want to thank Commissioner Babson for taking the lead on the negotiations and bringing this to us. I feel extremely confident on this vote, and I'd like to just go ahead and vote and move on to something else.
I would just like, just for the record, if I could, just to clarify a little bit about the jurisdictional. The jurisdictional that what Eastern is offering is to file all appropriate paperwork, perform all the requirements that is specified by the state that puts Carroll County in compliance with
Right.
that regulation.
Right.
We will do that labor-free.
Yeah?
Should we discover a problem that could potentially fail that jurisdictional expense, then that cost is on Carroll County.
Right. You're providing inspection service basically in filing the paperwork, which we have to do, and you're doing that for us along with giving us a very competitive price. It's, and all of this is going to be in writing, I guess, somewhat.
And that's why the contract that I currently have, and that's in front of you today, will not be executed today. I will have to go back and revise it to include the jurisdictional filing of the paperwork and the full inspection.
So
At the same price.
I would like to offer an amendment to the motion to say, to give the chairman authority to sign on behalf of the county when that paperwork is presented.
And we'll have that next week.
Okay. The amendment is that I get to sign.
You've got the room next door.
Those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Okay, so the motion as amended. Oh, goodness, I wrote this down. Is to award the contract to Easton for the price of $1.2838 to run from July 1st, 2018 to September 2019.
Through September?
Yes.
So I should say September
First.
30th.
It does.
Does it say, is it the 30th?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't run that down.
Mark?
And that they will perform all necessary setups for the jurisdictional account. I had to write it down. All those in favor say aye.
Madam Chairman?
Yes?
Excuse me. We had also did some discussion about surcharges, and do you have your copy there, Mark, Bob?
Yes, I do.
Number 6, the buyer will pay all freight inspection fees, surcharges, demurrage, and all other charges levied or imposed on such products after the title so passes to the buyer, and the buyer shall assume all risks and loss of this product. I'm assuming that when you're talking about surcharges and demurrage here, you're not talking about out here, you're talking about.
Yeah, no, we're talking, a situation, should we have a situation where we came up here with a truck and for whatever reason we couldn't get to access to your tank? Now, there would have to be a surcharge for that because we ran a load up here and now we couldn't deliver it for whatever reason. There would
That's
be a
the type of
surcharge.
surcharge you're talking
That's the type of surcharge that we're talking about. Not that that ever happens, but if it happens, we have to cover it. Now, mind you, these are written for all customers, so, you know, it's hard to specify a contract. But that's what that would be for. If there was some reason that we came up here with a load and we couldn't get in it because you had some kind of construction going on, or you had something that we weren't able to get to your tank to make that delivery. And we have to be reimbursed for that time for that truck.
holes in the parking lot.
Could I have,
Same
copy
holes,
back,
or
Mark?
whatever the case may be.
And-
Those are the extreme measures.
Yeah,
and
that's
very
fair,
well.
that's fair.
We do not, I will add this, we do not add any line items to our invoicing, so the 128, quote this right, 128.38 is all inclusive. Okay, so there's no fuel surcharges added to our invoicing, there's no other line items per se. I will say there are other companies out there that they break it down and put line items. I'm gonna give you a cost per gallon, and there's line items that add up to another 3, 4, 5 cents sometimes.
Yeah.
So just wanted to point that out.
Yes, Dave.
And Bob, you're gonna guarantee that the propane is delivered here? According to what you quoted here, it's gonna go to Mortar Village Road.
Exactly. So Bob was so kind to update my copy of this.
So it is gonna come to Water Village, it's not gonna go to
Absolutely.
anybody's house.
Absolutely. And then
Not going to your house.
and under remarks is where you'll see the jurisdictional agreement that we came to.
Thank you. Let's
And
vote.
should I make that out to attention to Amanda? That's the way it is here,
No, to Ken.
to Ken?
Yeah.
Should I get it?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? All right. I have a question now.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Are we going to get a delivery between now and Sunday?
You received one
We
today.
got one
We got one
today.
today.
And that was at the 112.
That's why I recommended yesterday that you go forward.
And we voted for it, and I wanted to make sure that we weren't going to
Right.
have any problems here. And we won't need a second one before the 1st of July.
And I do think we've got to keep an eye on the pellet situation as well, because I just think we ought to keep an eye on the
Yep.
pellet
And
situation.
this was for a 275,000?
Yeah, that was the next question that I was gonna have, because there was some discussion in our meeting that maybe we reduce that from 300,000 that is on this contract to 275. I mean, I don't think we came to an agreement on that, so maybe we can talk about the gallon amount that you would like on the contract.
Bob?
If it's an 18-month contract,
It's not.
or 15-month,
15.
15-month contract, and because we had to buy another load at a little higher rate, that's a good figure. We may see some energy savings in the future, which may reduce our consumption a certain percentage, but he's also guaranteed us that if for some reason at the expiration of the 18 months, we do not purchase that full, or 15 months, we do not purchase that full 300,000 gallons, we're not obligated to buy the rest of it.
Well, let's clarify what I did say.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That as long as the trend from Carroll County is that you've consumed the same amount of product you normally would based on degree days, that we would work with you on any remaining gallons if we had length beyond the date of this contract.
So that translates, if we have a warmer winter than last year.
Then we would work with you to get through that.
So we're buying up to 300 gallons,
300,000.
300,000, thank you.
And is that what we want to write?
300,000, or September 30th, whichever comes first.
Yeah, I would like to see the words up to 300,000.
I really can't do that.
Okay.
Because the reason I say we can't do that is because, like I said, we put financial instruments on these gallons, and therefore I can't commit to Carroll County up to. I
No,
have to
you
commit to
either
Carroll
know or not.
County,
Right.
300,000, 275, 250, whatever Carroll County would like, whatever you agree upon.
So September 30th coming, we have used 290,000.
And the rest is gone. The rest, Eastern will consume.
Okay, if we use 250,000,
Then based on what the degree days were for that period of time, and if we feel like you're in line with it, we'll
Okay.
leave that.
I'm fine with that. Let's move into.
So I just don't-
something different
Bob,
out of
you
this
have something
conversation.
to say?
Yeah, just to put on the table, if our energy project continues to go through, we are going to see a certain percentage of reduction in BTU consumption based on degree days.
But I don't think that'll happen within the next year, will it? Before now in
It could
September?
happen before, it could start before the end of the year.
Yeah, but
If
I
we
think
make,
this,
if we're on.
I think we need to
Think they
plan
want
this,
to get to work that quickly?
I think we need to plan any savings to start accumulating once things start coming together. I don't know, what are the options, either 300,000 or 275? I mean, what's,
There's 3 loads different there, though.
If you keep it at 275, we're at the same level that, we're gonna be at the same point next year that we are at this year.
what's your recommendation? What's your level recommendation?
If we're gonna be held to 300,000 gallons based on degree days, then that's probably too much.
What's your recommendation for what it should be?
Months, we use 275,000 gallons.
15,000 a month is what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I would try to keep that.
No, why, we need more than 275, we just got another load. So we 285.
I would keep it at around that same amount.
Okay, so hold on.
Then we were 5,000 over the last load, so now we're up to 280.
285,000.
No, we're
Now
290.
we're actually 290.
290.
Divided by-
So just
Right,
make it 300.
290.
How many months did we hit how many months did we get to
The
it
last contract was signed on March 1st.
through today, so it's.
No, we used 275 the last load.
Right.
And that load was split.
Split,
Split.
And that was
5,000.
about, what, 2 weeks ago that was delivered?
Yeah, so 275, 285. We're up to 290, 292.
We're getting
Somewhere in there.
over what period of time?
The contract was from April 17th through September of 18. So you
And we only went
consumed-
through
For the
June.
16 months.
60 months, that's what I needed. Okay, so we're averaging 18,000 a month times 15 months on this new one, 273. So 275 might be the number.
How much, Paul?
So,
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Are you okay with that, Bob, 275?
Absolutely.
And if we start approaching that number, we have the option to renegotiate another contract.
And we should be tracking how much we use, not asking Easton.
We talked about that in the meeting.
Okay,
Bob, and
because
Bob will track.
we shouldn't put it on them to keep track of our.
We're gonna start a spreadsheet.
So a clarification for Eastern as well, in the future, because this whole thing caught me off guard with this, having to do what we did yesterday to get that load today. I was not aware that if there was not an existing contract with gallons on it, that you had to go through this process of getting a pre-approval. Is that the case? Should we get into this situation next year, do I need a pre-approval?
Well, you need to tell us that the contract is going to expire, so there's still a contract in place.
All right,
What
understood.
happened was the contract ended 2 weeks ago,
Absolutely.
and basically we were
Well,
without a contract.
we have some responsibility with that too. It's
Exactly.
not just on them.
But I'm just saying, that's why we had to go through this, was because there was no existing contract.
I don't
Today.
think there'll be another problem.
No, they won't.
I think everything's fine.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Everybody will be watching, I think.
I appreciate you guys being so patient with us. You know, it's not easy sometimes having to work through all the restrictions, if you will, or the procedures that we're bound to.
But we understand it too.
But you did a very good job and very patient with us. Thank you.
David?
Yeah, write down 283,000 gallons, that's my guess for next year.
Just write it down, you will see. Put
How
a dollar
many
in
jelly
it.
beans are in the jar?
Exactly.
You want to change the 275 to 283, Commissioner?
No, he wants you to just write it down, so.
I got it.
No, well, we can,
Put in the minutes.
actually, I'd rather raise it just a hair, I'd rather play it safe than,
It's not my call.
but you people make
You wanna
the
go to
decision,
280?
I'm just.
We're at
I think
275 right
283.
now, right? Is this what we're agreeing on?
Yeah.
270? I'll be agreeable to 283 if you want it.
How about 280?
280 is fine with me. Is that okay with you?
Yeah,
Works for me.
That makes you feel more comfortable, doesn't it?
yes.
I'm gonna stay out of this discussion at this point.
We know that this, from
Mhm.
275 to 280 is on Commissioner Babson.
Okay.
All right. And I
I'm
would
not
have,
paying
he's
for the
not
load,
alone.
but it is on me.
So,
I'd feel much more comfortable with a little
Yeah,
extra.
yeah.
280?
And short. And Bob, thank you very much for being reasonable and coming in here and
Well,
talking.
it was our pleasure, and it's Eastern's pleasure to do business with the county. 20-plus years of relationship, and we would like to see him.
You've been an excellent supplier over the
Well,
years.
thank you.
And a great wealth of information today, thank you. Learned so much about propane.
And you continue buying up the county, I guess.
No, we don't want to buy up the whole county, just
You could
the
just
oil people within the county. So,
Yes, sir. We have public input.
Can you briefly describe for the public what a jurisdictional setup is?
He's a good one to do that.
a jurisdictional account, and I will do my best because I'm not the expert, I may be the
Bob,
resident
thank you
expert.
very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Sorry for interrupting.
So I may not be the resident expert in our company, but I will be here today. Jurisdictional accounts is required by the PUC in the state of New Hampshire, that any public buildings that the general public is allowed to enter and exit, that has the distribution network, multiple meters, and is fed off one bank of tanks, is required to file a certain maintenance schedule that has entailed that we have tested all the distribution lines, that all the pertinent piping is protected against the elements, against vehicle crashes or any other motorized vehicle or any other motorized equipment that could actually take a pipe and cause damage. So we inspect all of that has to be inspected annually to ensure the public safety. And that's what Eastern has agreed to perform for Carroll County. Should we disclose or uncover any issues in that inspection, Carroll County will be responsible for the repairs. And so that's basically what the jurisdictional account is, and that's governed by the state.
Thank you.
Now, if price of gas doesn't go up, do we get a refund?
No, we just set a price.
I don't want to go through, we're not going through that again.
Let's go on to a different
Yeah,
topic.
I was gonna say,
We beat this
it's already
one,
sealed.
right?
Yeah.
We beat this
It's
one.
already sealed.
All right, very nice,
So
thank
we
you.
good?
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
Madam Chairman, I have another issue that says we're still in session on another matter, if I could.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Thank you very much, sir. And you'll get that you'll get that contract for me to sign.
Early next week.
Okay.
Okay, now what's the best way to get it here?
You can just send it to Bob, and then Bob will get it to me. You have his email address?
I believe, if not, I can reach out to him. I have his phone.
Well, here, you can have
You
mine.
can send it to 93 Morton Road.
Make sure you send it signed.
I'll send a sign, I'll
Yeah.
PDF it to an email. And that way we'll be good.
Okay, that's fine.
So you're gonna be the one signing? No, she's gonna be the one
Yeah.
signing? Wait, can I send it to you first so you can review it?
sure.
See if there's anything that you think.
When Mark's done with his, don't forget this.
Oh, Mark has something he'd like to share.
The United States Supreme Court ruled in the case of Janus versus AF, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, that unless a public employee opts in to an agency fee program, that it is no longer permissible, legal, to deduct those dues from the paycheck. There's a lot of activity going on right now around this issue, and many different attorneys have chimed in with different opinions and thoughts. They're all fairly consistent, but the one that drives it is the one from New Hampshire's Chief Law Enforcement Agent, the Attorney General Gordon MacDonald, who has issued this order to the state, and I believe it pertains to all public employees. His order is, no agency fee should be deducted from paychecks issued on that date, being July 6th, and thereafter, unless the employee has given his or her consent. Now, when talking with Ken, he's already received calls from both employees and also a union official wondering about how this is all going to go. And I think it's important for us to take a position today that gives direction for Ken, but also brings us into compliance with the law of the land. So I'd like to make a motion, Madam Chairman, that the Carroll County comply with the Attorney General's order to the state in order that no agency fee or union dues be deducted from paychecks issued after July 6th and thereafter, unless the employee has given his or her consent. If I can get a second, I'd like to speak to this.
Second?
It's not necessarily something that's just going to be that simple, but I think you have to start off with a simple premise. In the next few days, there's going to be a lot of questions and answers. I think it's very important that the commissioners get out in front of this and provide Ken with a directive so that he doesn't have to bear the brunt of a decision. This is not something that I personally am happy about, but you know, we're a nation of laws, and the rule of law is that the Attorney General has issued an order to comply with the Supreme Court, and we have no other options. So I would encourage us to give this directive.
Okay, so what that basically, if I can put it in layman's terms, means if you are not a union member, the union cannot automatically take any money out of your paycheck unless you come over and say, please take the money out and give it to the union.
Actually, the step is this: the union doesn't take the money. We take the money, and then we transfer it to the union. So what that stops is we stop the flow of money from people who have not opted in to agency fees. We stop the flow of money to the unions because that's what the law says. Now, if an employee comes and opts in and says, I want to have agency fees deducted, then they can be. But at this point, there's so much up in the air. There's so many people that are trying to figure this out that we just have to say, we're complying with the law and see what happens. We've had confirmation from Attorney Clausen, and I can also tell you that the SAU 9, the Conway School District, has already done this, and we should, I shouldn't say already done this, are looking to do this.
David, you have a question?
No?
Will you not take dues out of union members until they come over and say they want them taken out?
No, if we have signed cards already, we will continue to do that. If we don't have signed cards, we will not take any money out.
Because I think the public needs to know that.
Right, it's about, you can't take it until they give the consent. If they've already given consent, then you've got consent, but if they haven't given consent, then it's illegal to take make the deduction.
Yes, David?
Do any of you know, can the union member come over now and say, I want to withdraw that card?
Yes, they can.
Yes,
Thank you.
That's why it's important to do this, so that, because Commissioner Babson, I think, is going to be quite active across the state with people, public employees asking that question. There's close to 300 public employee contracts in the state, and being on the PELRB, we're actually getting ready for some action. We don't know exactly what, but I can't imagine there won't be some court cases and grievances of some sort. But this just says we're complying with the law.
Any other discussion? Cheryl, would you read this?
I got it here for you. You probably didn't get it. You wanna read what I got, and then you just hold right there.
Okay.
I'll send that to you.
Carroll County, the motion's been made and seconded that Carroll County comply with the AG's order to the state and order that no agency fee or union dues be deducted from paychecks issued after July 6th and thereafter unless the employee has given his or her consent. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right. And the lastly, I think, if I might, I would like to read this letter that the Carroll County Commissioners have written to the Carroll County members to the General Court. It says the Carroll County Commissioners applaud your past support of New Hampshire's homegrown energy, healthy, sustainable forest industry, in-state agriculture, and local employment. Your endorsement of locally operated biomass power generators will maintain 900 jobs with over $50 million in annual payroll, $7.3 million in annual tax and fees paid to state and local government, and result in $240 million economic activity. The local biomass operations are important to Carroll County. Our timberland owners and workers need a market for low-grade timber. Our farmland owners and workers need the wood ash. Our business owners and workers need an economy that maintains local jobs. We, the Commissioners of Carroll County, pray you will continue down this green avenue by voting to override the governor's veto of House Bill 365. Sincerely, the Carroll County Commissioners.
Excellent. Excellent.
And I will get a copy of this for each of you to sign.
What I would suggest, because I believe our motion was that you can sign this for us, is why don't you just go ahead and sign it, give us copies of the signed one, because I won't be around and we need to get this out.
Well, shall I have Cheryl stamp it?
Yes.
That's fine, if you want to do that, that's fine.
Very good. Thank you.
I just don't want to drive down to,
So I got two things.
Oh,
Continuing with the MOU from Hale's location in Freiburg Academy, you wanted me to write a letter. In reviewing it, I found a couple of things that you might want to discuss really quick.
this is on the contract? with-
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to recuse
Okay.
myself.
There are two
I have a
new,
conflict.
there are three new changes in here that we were not aware of. And one is number 3, transportation. In the other one, it just says a designated pickup and drop off in North Conway. Now they're saying locations in North Conway, so more than one location, which I don't think is a bad thing. 4 will be the financial consideration for 18-19 school year. Tuition is $17,900, which is what was in the original contract.
It should be 19 something, shouldn't it?
No, 17,900. And they added additional transportation charge of $1,200 per student.
That was in one of the things that they sent us, that was in it.
Well, I looked in the original contract and it
So it
wasn't
wasn't
there.
in the original, but it was in the one that
Okay,
came
so
after.
so you're all right with that then?
Yeah.
Okay,
and that transportation is going to pick up at locations. in
multiple
Norfolk.
locations in North Conway.
Okay.
And the third thing is 5, special education needs. We knew that there was a cost with that and that Hales would pick up the entire cost of special education. And it says that, and shall monitor student progress as required by law and in a manner consistent with any other student at the academy. Hales location shall be responsible for the payment of all such special education services. Because the Academy's special education program is fully funded by Maine SAU District 72, the Academy will, semi-annually, provide Hales location with invoice for special education services, and charges will be payable to MSAD 72. So that is new, and I didn't see an issue with that. The only issue I saw was the additional $1,200 per student. I wasn't aware that we talked about that, but,
It was in the second letter that he sent us.
okay. Then I am going to send this to her for her endorsement, and,
For signature.
yeah, and then she can send it back. Okay, that's it. And my last thing is, here's our dog.
Oh,
They will be back tomorrow. Well, they're flying in tonight, but
What's the name, do you know?
the dog's name is his dog,
His dog?
so far.
it's a shepherd?
No, it's that Belgian,
Belgian
Yeah.
Shepherd, isn't it?
something like that, yeah.
Long-legged.
Yeah, that's long legs.
She looked young. I don't know if you can see that or not from there. Yeah.
So will tomorrow be her first day?
No, she won't come in until next week sometime. Merrimack has offered to help train her further with Sergeant Corliss at no cost to the county, so.
I just am so impressed with Sergeant Corliss
Mhm.
stepping up to do this. It's just been very, very nice.
It's a bold step and it has its risk. I hope he's been encouraged to put life insurance on this investment. No, I'm serious.
Yeah, no,
He's
right.
gone out on the limb financially, and it's for a good cause, and I just hope he is getting good guidance on matters such as that. But that's pretty exciting.
All right, is there anything else, gentlemen?
That's it.
We're all set? All
The
right.
next meeting's in 2 weeks.
Oh, gentlemen, yes, that is something. I will not be here for Monday's meeting. I don't know why I didn't see it. I have a doctor's appointment in Dover that I have waited 8 weeks to get, and they sent me a confirmation today, and it was like, oh my God, that's July 2nd. So, it's an 11 o'clock appointment, so I can't see my being here and being able to get there, so. We have a couple of things to present, and Ken and you two can decide who and how to do that. I will appreciate that.
I intend to be there.
It's-
Pretty important meeting.
It's the first one I've missed, but it's really important that I get to this doctor.
Yep, it sure is.
Okay, I'll wait a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, aye. We are done. David?